Hi, this is Nikki, and I'm here to share the messages that I get from Spirit and from all of our higher selves that are on this journey to love. And so I share messages that come through from healings, from readings, and from all of our higher selves that come to me. They're for a channeled letter. And then I share the messages because they are all messages to help us all on our journey to reunite with our twins. And so if you follow my messages, I said yesterday that I am doing a Reiki Seikin course. And I just wanted to share what happened because, of course, if it happens for me, then it might trigger something for some of you because we are so linked on this journey. And so recently I've been saying about this little golden bear that has got two little hearts, and he's grounding love onto the planet. And I use him now and have been using him in my healings that I do for people. And he's the golden bear because he's got golden energy that spreads everywhere. And so yesterday, the healing, what happened relates to the bear. And so I am going to share what happened. So when you do the course, you basically get attuned, a series of attunements. And the first thing that happened is I saw me and my twin in a tomb in the pyramid, and we were in there together, and they were closing the casket, so they were putting the stone over the casket, and we were in there, but we were alive and we were children. And then we were kind of like mummied together with our faces showing each other. And what happened is that when they put the roof on, or the top on, I was kind of said, my guidance was like, well, why aren't you scared? Because, you know, you should be. Well, if you think about it, if you're going to get closed into a tomb and you're alive, then that would be a pretty scary thing. But the point is that I wasn't, because we were in there together. And my twin then rubbed my nose, and then he jokingly pulled out a lighter and lit and basically clicked the lighter so I could see his face. And I was kind of like, well, how have you got a lighter? Because if this is back in the pyramid age, then how have you got a lighter? And so it was just his sort of joke, as if to say, it's not a lighter at all. It's just showing you that we are the light for each other. And that actually that's why you don't feel any sense of panic, because we are together. And so even though we are put in a casket with the roof coming on top of us, and essentially that should be the most terrifying thing ever, that we are still okay because we are the light for each other. So that was the first thing. So the lesson was obviously to remember that you are, as long as you focus on your heart and know that in your heart that they're always there, then that's where you see the light. So again, very powerful kind of analogy that I saw. In the second attunement, again, this is quite amazing. So basically what happened was we were little children and we were on a carousel. And the carousel, we're kind of running in and out of the carousel. And then I see my twin, and he has wrapped himself in a piece of rope around the pole that's in the middle of the carousel. And he was crying. And I went over to him and he wouldn't look at me. And I said, what's wrong? And he said, I'm so guilty and ashamed. And I said, oh, don't be silly. Don't be silly. You don't need to be guilty or ashamed. And so I had a pair of scissors. So I cut the rope from it. And once I cut the rope from it, then we were like, he was really happy again, and basically cutting the rope was symbolic of cutting away all of the guilt and shame that he was feeling. And obviously, you know, we all mirror each other, so wherever that guilt and shame was in me as well was cut away. And so guilt and shame was a massive, massive thing. So I'm saying that because you might want to look at where you are feeling guilt and shame and clear any guilt and shame that you have. Anyway, after that, we're running around the carousel again, all fine. And then I see like a porcupine, and the porcupine, which is all prickly on the outside, and then it turns into like a possum, which has got like a smooth, it looks like a porcupine, but with no prickles. And so, and then so basically then that was at the end, at the very end of the achievement, after I see the porcupine and the possum, and basically my guidance was saying, when you remove the prickles, that's what you've done. You've basically removed the prickly outer edge of him to make him the soft, basically the soft within. And that's what the guilt and shame and everything has done. It's given him a prickly outer edge because he's protecting himself and is defensive. And then afterwards, I was showing the possum, which is obviously all soft and no prickly outer edge. And then we developed wings and we flew together like little kids with little cherub wings, and we went flying off together. And so it was, and then I was guided to look for the porcupine in the medicine cards. So I am going to read this because it was quite amazing. And so this is guidance for everyone that is on this journey with me, that is going through very similar things, right? And you will know because it will just resonate with you. But the porcupine is, remind me of innocence again, with every man a brother and each woman a friend. So, the south of the medicine wheel is the place of a childlike innocence and humility. It is the home of playfulness and the position of porcupine on the medicine wheel of life. Porcupine has many special qualities and a very powerful medicine, the power of faith and trust. The power of faith contains within it the ability to move mountains. The power of trust in life involves trusting that the Great Spirit has a divine plan. Your task is to find the pathway that is most beneficial for you and that uses your talents to further that plan. Trust can open doorways to the creation of space. The space thus created allows others to open their hearts to you and to share their gifts of love, joy, and companionship. If you were to observe porcupine, you would immediately notice its quills. These quills are only used when trust has been broken between porcupine and another creature. Much like otter, porcupine is a gentle, loving creature and non-aggressive. When fear is not present, it is possible to feed a porcupine by hand and never get stuck by its quills. Through understanding the basic nature of this animal, you may come to understand your own need for trust and faith, and for becoming like a child again. In today's society, this is a needed reminder to honour the wonder of life and the appreciation of each new day as an adventure of discovery. Porcupine sat silently, looking at a hollow log. She wondered if it was a playhouse that nature had created just for her. Porcupine envisioned all the things she could do with the log. She could climb on top and make the log roll from side to side. She could go inside and see if there were any juicy worms for her dinner. She could also scratch her back on the rough outer bark if she wanted to. Just as Porcupine was wondering what to do next, she saw Bear approaching. I mean, can you believe that? The bear. Now this, when I started crying when I got to this point, because I was like, you are joking. You are literally joking me. Right, so this is so significant what this now says. Bear was big and black and looking for honey. Oh, another playmate to share my log, she thought. Hello, Bear, she cooed. Do you want to play and share my log with me? And the gruff old bear snorted. Porcupine, don't you know that I'm too old to play? You're in my way. I'm looking for honey, so go away. Why, Bear, you're never too old to play, she replied. If you forget what it was like to be a cub, you'll always be as impatient and gruff as you are now. Bear began to think about what Porcupine had said, and maybe she was right. All the other creatures had run away from Bear in fright. Even the other bears had turned up their noses when he growled at them. This little porcupine was certainly trusting him not to eat her. She even offered to be his friend. The old bear looked at Porcupine and began to feel something move inside him. He started to remember the games he had played as a cub. Joy started to live in him again. Little Porcupine, you have reminded me that in becoming strong and seeking answers, I got caught in trying to be an intellectual. I became afraid of what others would think if I dropped my mask of gruffness. I was afraid they wouldn't take me seriously anymore. You have taught me that in being a fuddy-duddy, I was causing others not to care for me. Thank you. I'd love to play with this old log. And so it was that Bear became childlike again and learned the innocence of Porcupine. In choosing the Porcupine card, you have given yourself a gentle reminder not to get caught in the chaos of the adult world where fear, greed, and suffering are commonplace. The medicine in this card is that of relief from seriousness and severity. Open your heart to those things that give you joy as a child. Remember the preciousness of fantasy and imagination, and the making of some game or toy from nothing but scraps. Honour the playfulness of spirit that lets everyone win. Wow. So you can see why this is very similar to the bear. And it's also very symbolic that she plays with a log and the log is her home. Because if you follow my channel, then it's all based around the forest lovers who are entwined together for eternity around the oak tree. And so if you join the crystal grid, that's what we're doing. We're literally anchoring love onto the planet. And it's being able to see through your twins' gruff behaviour, if they're being gruff or ignoring or prickly or whatever they're doing. Because they're not doing that. They're doing that for self-preservation. But what this is saying is, if you keep going and keep showing them tender love and care, then just like the bear, this is the message of that healing. Keep going, because actually it's your childlike spirit that will help them come through and will help them break out of their fears, right? Because the bear said, I became afraid of what others would think if I dropped my mask of gruffness. So it's about dropping the mask, but it's about knowing that you're here to ground love onto the planet. And actually what your twin wants you to do is to carry on going and to keep believing, because it really is real. I was so amazed when I read this in the book, because I was like, you know, it's quite a specific thing to see a porcupine in a healing or in an attunement. And I was like, what? What's that? And then when my guidance was like, read the book, I could not believe it that the bear was in there. So trust, because you are softening their outer edge, because of course you are one energy body. So whatever you're doing, it cannot help but help them. And by doing what you're doing, it will unwrap the rope from around them, which is their self-inflicted rope. So always be compassionate on the journey. All right. Well, I hope that helps. Take care. Bye.